we're going to get started here. But first of all, I just want to say welcome to everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Dan Sullivan. I'm the VP of Growth and Partnerships at Cuseum. Just want to start by thanking our panelists for being here today. Hopefully everyone in attendance also is having a wonderful 2022. Really excited to be back. For those who are unfamiliar, we ran these Alumni Hour webinars last year and the year of the first year of the pandemic as well, just to try to bring people together and share through some of their best practices so we could all grow together. And it has expanded out of that. So I just want to say welcome back to those who are joining us again. If you don't mind, introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love to know who's tuning in. That little blue box, though, change that to everyone so folks can see your responses. You can feel free to mention where you're joining from geographically or the university that you represent. So just real quick, for those that are unfamiliar, Cuseum, we work with higher education institutions to help them better increase their engagement with their alumni and members using tools like digital alumni engagement cards. So super excited to be here. Quick housekeeping, other than the introductions here, if you do have a question, you can ask that down below using the Q&A. And if you see a question that you like, you can give it a little thumbs up and it'll drive it up to the top. Give me a chance to go through those and make sure our panelists get a moment to respond to them. With that, let's move on to the webinar. So we have an awesome panel today. Really excited to discuss, the state of things in the year ahead. So we are joined by Joslyn Dipasalegne, the Alumni Relations Coordinator at Albany State University. We've got Paula Shute, the Program Manager, Alumni Relations at Ave Maria University, and Emily Williams, the Director of Office of Alumni and Family Engagement at Bentley University. So panelists, thank you for being here. I'm going to start with some quick introductions. Maybe we can go around the room, hear a little bit about you, your team, your role, maybe a bit about what your alumni base looks like, and we can start with that. Joslyn, do you want to kick us off?
Certainly, I just have to figure out where my mouse is. Good afternoon, everyone. Albany State University is located in Southwest Georgia. We're closer to Tallahassee, Florida than we are to Atlanta. Most of our students come from the Atlanta metropolitan area that are not from the 6 counties surrounding Albany State. We have alumni as far away as Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York, Florida. We have the Virgin Islands, Belize. We have a strong international student program. So we get students from literally across the globe, which means they go back across the globe and serve as our alumni. Of course, we have those alumni who are diehards. We call them the Ramily. Our alumni, students, faculty, and staff are called the Ramily. Our mascot is Golden Ram. So, and our football team is called the Dirty Blues because of the way they play. And our colors are royal blue and old gold. So Albany State in a nutshell. We've got 6,000 students this year, and we're the largest HBCU in the state of Georgia.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. Paula, why don't you follow on?
Hi, everyone. My name is Paula Shute. I'm the Program Manager of Alumni Relations at Ave Maria University in Southwest Florida. So I think my weather is a lot warmer than a lot of you watching, which I appreciate. Maybe some of you don't appreciate, but I do. So we are a very new school in comparison to most higher education institutions in the States. We have 20 years worth of graduates, and we currently have 1,300 students and around 3,000 alumni. So much smaller school, much smaller alumni base, but we're growing and we're doing good things. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. And last but not least, Emily.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Williams, as Dan mentioned, and I've recently just stepped down from my position at Bentley University, but I will be speaking from the Bentley framework today. So Bentley University is located in Waltham, Massachusetts. and we have 65,000 alumni. It is a 4-year private institution for undergraduates and a series of graduate degrees as well, primarily focused on business and finance and accounting, but we certainly have some marketing and liberal arts students as well with a business focus. And so if you are interested in coming to snowy Boston, let us know.
Woo! I'm also in the Boston area, so yeah, I feel somebody in the chat mentioned that they got snow yet. Ellen, yes. Well, anyway, to those feeling the snow, we're with you. Emily, let's keep the mic with you. You want to talk a little bit about your, again, through this Bentley lens, some priorities for the year ahead. How have those shifted from previous years? What's the number one thing really kind of that you're hoping to accomplish in this coming year?
Absolutely. I know we'll be talking a little bit more about balance later on in this webinar, but really focused on how to reintroduce in-person programming. Like many institutions, we had put a pause on in-person programming and have slowly started to bring it back, thinking about that strategically, but also not ignoring our virtual audience that we've brought on board and haven't had those engagement opportunities within the past. Also really looking at how to continue to create meaningful connections back to the institution, especially since so many people went online the past 2 years and have been able to make those connections themselves. So what is our purpose and what does our purpose serve to create meaningful relationships back to the institution?
Awesome. Paula, what are some of your priorities for the coming year? What's kind of the number one thing you're hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, so I'll be going into my 3rd year of this position, and before that, we've actually never had a full-time alumni relations staff. So I'm just really hoping to continue to bring consistency to the programs that we have gotten off the ground in the last 2 years. Again, like I said, our alumni are newer graduates, more recent graduates, and are really seeking that consistency from the university. So I'm just trying to make sure that follow through happens. We have a new online networking platform. That's one of my top things to get moving forward as we go into the year. It's called Grafted. And so it's a networking platform for students and alumni, but also alumni to each other. And then just making sure that our alumni have the connections that I've been hearing they wanted. So trying to finally give that to them. So.
And by the way, folks, while we're having these conversations in the chat, we encourage you to, throw out some of the platforms that you're using, the tools that you're using. Obviously, Paula just shared Grafted. If anyone else is, using other similar types of, tools like People Grove or whatever it may be, we'd love to hear what your technology stack is looking like. And then, of course, everyone's working through similar but different challenges. So feel free to jump in the chat and share some of the challenges you're facing so we can try to work through some of those together. Joslyn, I'm going to hand the mic over to you. Can you talk a little bit about what some of your top priorities are for this coming year and how they've shifted over time?
Well, I too am 3 years into my position. I began at this university. I began in April of 2019, and then 2020, we went off the grid. So we started to do visits with the president to the local chapters. Our alumni chapters are part of our National Alumni Association, which is a separate corporation, separate business unit from the university. We have a wonderful partnership, but it had not been managed as well as it could have been. So I began building that relationship with the National Alumni Association and having more visits. We began something called virtual visits with the president in October of 2019, and we continued them through 2020 and 2021. We'll be starting them again the end of this month for 2022. And this is the opportunity for us to engage alumni from communities that are not necessarily involved with the university. They get our emails, but they don't come back and engage with us. So we're inviting them to these virtual visits. That's a big priority for the university. Increasing our alumni engagement overall, we have a fraction of the number of alumni that are in our database who are actively engaging with us. So we're increasing our social media presence, partnering with those alumni who have their own following and helping them to get engaged with us in a meaningful way. A mentoring program is something that's high on my list, and I am looking for software platforms. So if you have any to share, I would love to know what they are so I can look into them. Grafted was one I had not heard of, so I will look into that. And of course, alumni engagement means more dollars for our foundation. So that's a big push for us. And bringing more people back to campus to speak. We have wonderful alumni who've accomplished great things, and we want our students to meet them. So those are my top goals.
Awesome. I've heard of one mentoring platform, also Mentor Collective. I don't know if anyone uses that. They're also based here in Boston. So I'm not sure if anybody in the audience is familiar with that organization, but just throwing the name out there. So Joslyn, kind of staying with you though, can you talk a little bit about how you're measuring success this year? Like, in other words, are there any particular metrics or key performance indicators that you're using to assess kind of whether you're heading in the right direction?
Well, one of the things we measure, as I mentioned before, is our giving. When alumni are engaged, they give. We doubled our alumni engagement over the past year during the pandemic, and we doubled our contributions from alumni. We've set up additional scholarships. So by doing our virtual events and posting them on YouTube and Facebook and whatever other ones we use, but we're reaching alumni and they're reaching back. So attendance is one thing. We're starting to require people to register for events, so we know who's coming. We can capture information that way that will allow us to update our records. And I think those are the main things: attendance, increase in funds, participation in activities, especially student networking, student engagement activities. Right?
Definitely. Thank you. Paula, how about for you? How are you measuring success this year? And also, are there any KPIs or specific metrics that you're tracking kind of closely?
So really, what I'm doing right now is focused on the fundraising part, except we've slowly started to recreate the asks. But originally, our demographic of alumni weren't feeling like they were getting anything of value. And so our giving was lower. And so we have started to make sure that we're giving them stuff of value so that they feel like there's a reason and a connection back to the university. So with that, we've been marking growth in attendance for our homecomings, growth in attendance in reunions. So we're expecting an in-person reunion actually at the end of this month, and about between 80 and 100 alumni back on campus. So keeping track of event attendance, which is always kind of a question mark, just because our alumni are really all over the place. So it kind of depends on the year if people can get back to Southwest Florida or not. And then we have reinstated a senior class gift. So we've been keeping track of giving percentages of that. Last year we had about 15%. So we're going to try to get that bumped up. Last year was the first year we had done a senior class gift in about 10 years of us having alumni. So this year we're hoping to get a higher goal percentage on the senior class gift from the students. And then we're going to be keeping track again of just overall giving. Like Joslyn said, if you engage your alumni properly, the giving increases also. So we're trying to make sure that we have the programs that the alumni actually want. And then once Grafted gets going this year, we're going to be keeping track of who is interested in the platform, and the numbers of students that are interested and the numbers of alumni that are willing to be active members of something like that too.
Awesome. Emily, how about for you? How are you measuring success this year, and any specific KPIs or metrics you're tracking?
Yeah, so for the past few years, we followed CASE's alumni engagement metric model. They wrote a white paper back in 2019, I believe, about the metrics that they wanted to kind of create a standard across this industry. So we are measuring those four sort of features: engagement, which or experiential, volunteering, philanthropic engagement, and what's the last one? Oh, communications. So we count everybody once and in each of those categories, and look sort of to the standard, because anyone who submits their data to CASE is then shared back with those institutions who shared their data via the survey. So it's good to see kind of, it's not completely apples to apples, but it does give you a sense that, you know, we're striving for at least 1% of our alumni population to participate in a volunteering activity each fiscal year. And then anyone who participates in any of those categories, that's what we really consider our engagement, how much of our alumni base is engaged, and we're around 26%. So each year we're trying to just improve on that year over year, that someone has engaged in at least one of those four categories.
Definitely. Kind of staying with you, Emily, actually, you know, I think in the past 2 years, the effects of the pandemic, alumni relations in higher ed in general have undergone a lot of shifts, right? So like, what are some of the key ways that alumni engagement has changed for you in your experience in recent years? And also, like, are those changes here to stay?
Absolutely. So prior to that, this time 2 years ago, Bentley really hadn't done anything virtually to engage alumni, and we saw huge numbers on our virtual webinars. At one point, we were launching 2 webinars each week, or virtual programs or virtual events. We've obviously slowed down quite considerably now that there's been a return to in-person and with so much Zoom fatigue. So the leveling out is where we're kind of seeing a challenge now, figuring out what that right cadence is. Additionally, really meeting alumni where they are. We have been doing some dabbling in our corporate communities. So trying to engage alumni pockets in companies like State Street and Fidelity and PwC, where we have larger numbers of alumni, and trying to bring them together and giving them connections within the organizations where they work, and bringing the university to their workplace. A little more personalized and segmented approach. I know from my own alma mater, I received an email that said, "Oh, I want to personally invite you to this event if you haven't already registered to attend." And for me, I thought, how much time would it have taken for them to look it up and kind of dedupe their list to remove those folks who had already registered? You want to feel special, you want to feel acknowledged. So I think trying to put those processes into place to make things more personalized, more segmented is another one that we're really looking at.
Got some love in the chat from Jennifer. She said, "I'm a proud Falcon. Bentley did an amazing job with virtual programming." So
thank you, Jen. Always my biggest cheerleader.
love it. So Paula, in the past couple of years, can you talk a little bit about, since the start of the pandemic, how things have changed, for what you've seen? Obviously being kind of a relatively young institution comparatively, how did the pandemic affect you all, and what changes did you see?
Yeah, so it's been interesting being a university in Florida, and also a private university in Florida, because we have alumni all over the country, all over the world. And so we almost have 2 different pandemic experiences that have been going on. Local Floridians we're still hoping for a lot of in-person things over the last couple of years. People in other parts of the country were not used to in-person things at all. And so it's just been trying to now I've been trying to navigate hearing the alumni, seeing what they need. And the pandemic did open up for us a lot of the virtual options like everywhere else. And I don't think with our demographic right now, actually, I don't know how fast that would have happened if the pandemic hadn't happened. So we have some Zoom calls that still happen periodically. Usually we see a better response if it's a beloved faculty member that has brought a lot of alumni back onto a webinar. So we're having that in-person reunion that I was talking about, but then we're also a couple days after that having a webinar. Sorry, my lights turn off randomly. So we're having a Zoom webinar with one of our favorite faculty members, the alum's favorite faculty members, a couple days after. So even if someone can't get to the in-person reunion, they can at least experience another lecture from one of their professors. And then I was going to add something else to that, but yeah, so I think it's just, I really think that these online options are here to stay for us and for most places. And as terrible as a lot of things were the last couple of years, I'm grateful that those options are in place, especially for a private school when we have alumni all over the place.
Definitely. I just have to say also, I've hosted probably between 50 and 100 webinars. First time I've ever seen someone's lights turn off on their own. So love that. Joslyn, how about for you? What are some of the ways that you are you've noticed changes over the last few years?
Certainly. Well, we did almost everything face-to-face. We had 2 times of the year that we hosted alumni in large numbers, homecoming and our Founders Weekend. We didn't have homecoming or Founders Weekend in 2020 or 2021, or commencement. That's the third big thing for us. For our commencement, we decided it was a virtual commencement for the spring of 2020. And we gave out sent gift boxes home to the new alumni with their commencement folder and some gifts from the university. December, we had a limited attendance commencement in that the students were there, but none of the faculty and none of the parents. So that was streamed live. This past December, we had an almost regular commencement. What we didn't do at commencement is celebrate our golden classes. That's a big thing for us. So we just didn't do it. We didn't try to do a hybrid. These folks are 70 years plus. They're just not gonna do it. So we didn't try. So this year, as we come back to some semblance of normal, we're going to have a full-on commencement in May. The golden class, all 3 classes will be participating. We're still trying to figure that out in a social distancing world. Founders Weekend is a big deal for us. That's coming up the beginning of April. And we have all face-to-face events. Our big thing for Founders Weekend is our gala. It's a big money maker for the university. And we've decided to have a garden tent party so we could bring people together, but have it outside so that there was some semblance of social distancing and safety in this pandemic. So we're looking at how do we do things because the pandemic is still here, whether some people want to acknowledge it or not, it's still here. And we have our staunchest supporters are older. They're 50 and above, because the university's been around here since 1905. And the young folks are doing stuff differently. They haven't quite figured out how to fit into that alumni world, because they're still looking to go to the nightclub. And that's not where we do things. But anyway, So we're slowly but surely moving things back face to face when it's possible and when we think it's safe. So our big events will be face to face. We did homecoming face to face. We had our usual parade, tailgating. The crowds were smaller because some people decided they weren't going to come out. They were still a little unsure. So just getting back to normal with our regular events and then figuring out what things, the virtual visits with the president are probably going to still remain virtual for a while, just because it makes sense financially. We don't have to travel all over the world to put on an event. We can do it from the luxury of their home. They can visit with her. So we'll probably do a combination of things going forward.
Awesome. That's great. Paula, kind of handing the mic over to you. We've heard from a lot of alumni relations professionals that they're continuing to face budget restrictions in 2022. Has your budget allocation shifted this year at all, or, in comparison to previous years? And where are you kind of directing your resources and effort?
So I think one of the main ways that the budget has switched a little bit, and usually I think Joslyn, you had mentioned that off camera, but just that sometimes it's more we suggest things and then the budget gets figured out later along down the line. But one of the ways that we've concretely shifted is just less mailers and more social media pushes and e-blasts and things like that, especially because our demographic at our university is so much younger. Which is interesting because I think we're seeing a rise in appreciation of mail more than emails and texts now and all that, because people didn't get it for so long and now they're like, oh, real mail. But for some of our events that we had been sending events to, we decided to just focus mainly on like a social media push and an email instead of sending out both the save the date and an invite. And that really cuts down on some of our alumni costs there.
Definitely. Emily, how about for you? Obviously budgets have been kind of bouncing around a little bit over the last few years. What has the experience been like for you?
Yeah, we've also had our budget reduced because of COVID and obviously the changes in the economy. Like Paula, we're doing less physical mailing. We haven't seen a huge ROI on physical mailings in the past. We did a postcard campaign to try to gather more email data, and we really didn't see a huge surge in email data come back from that. So that's one way. And certainly, I don't know how Joslyn feels, but we've had to increase our budgeting for tenting, and tenting has gotten only more expensive. So we definitely need to make sure we're allocating money for those in-person on-campus events where we see our largest audiences, like our Falcon Weekend, which is homecoming and family weekend combined, and our reunion programming. One thing we have done was look at the ROI of our regional chapters program. When I first started at Bentley in 2018, there were 13 regional chapters, and they were sucking up a lot of time and resources with the same group of alumni attending year over year, event over event, not really bringing in new folks. So we took a really hard look at that model, and we sunset that particular model, and we brought back a new model that we're calling our regional representatives program. And you can request more of an event in a box, and it's event supplies for some of those groups. And we're reevaluating where we're doing our regional events in partnership with those representatives. So we found that that was a more cost-effective model to follow, as opposed to how everything was working in the past.
Definitely. So to shift gears here for a second, let's talk about kind of team development. So what are some of the key skills that you're developing on your teams and among your staff for the coming year, for the year ahead? Like, what new skill sets are you training or hiring for in order to deliver more successful programs? Joslyn, do you want to start us off on this?
I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. The president of the National Alumni Association just tried to call me. we've been trying to talk for 3 days. But anyway, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Story of my life. You're getting distracted. So basically, we're talking a little bit about some of the key skills you're looking to develop in your team or among your staff for the coming year. So are you hiring or training for any specific skills in order to deliver more successful programs?
Certainly. We have gotten down to a team of 2. I'm going to actually say 1.5 because the other person also does our community outreach, and she does more community outreach than she does alumni engagement. So it's 1.5 people. So we are looking for additional staff. And one of the big component of our job is Razor's Edge, being able to navigate Razor's Edge, to run reports, to get queries, we email a lot, and we do it to segments. For instance, we just started, this is something else we started sending out birthday cards, a digital birthday card once a month to all the alumni who are born in that month. Haven't gotten any feedback other than, I didn't get one. And that's a way for us to have a conversation with them. But going back to the training, that's an area that's going to be key for us, is being able to use Razor's Edge much more effectively, taking notes, documenting conversations and activities with individual alumni, being able to segment alumni based on careers so that we can pull people for specific career fairs or for speaking engagements that come from a certain segment of the business world. So that's a big one for us, is training and data. And then of course, event planning, because you got to know how to put on an event well, without a budget and no time.
That sounds kind of like a Herculean feat, but yes.
Yes.
True. Important skills.
Yes.
Paula, how about you? What kind of skills are you developing or hiring for?
Yeah, so I think one of, the coworker that I work with probably the most is our program manager of direct marketing and events. Just because we're trying to get a ton of creatives out. Again, like I was saying, focusing on consistency. So we have a newsletter that we work together on, just making sure that invites go out in time and things like that. So really design skills. We've been working with our student workers on designing donor thank you books. And right now, one of my student workers is working on all the senior class gift items for us, brochures, and a poster that's going to go out soon. We're going to do a little poster about a roast or toast event with their favorite professors. We're going to streamline it so we make sure it goes smoothly and nothing goes wrong. And I've slowly been trying to learn and keep up with the design schooling of myself, but it's very slow. So that's why I work so closely with our program manager of direct marketing.
Awesome. Roast or toast. I love that. Emily, how about you? From a skill perspective, where are you focused on hiring or developing?
Well, I agree with my colleagues here, and so I won't repeat some of the things that they've said, but really looking at volunteer management. As you might imagine, sunsetting our chapters program took some skilled volunteer management in working with our volunteers to reposition them towards our priorities. And then another thing that wasn't mentioned was that data analysis. We try to use priority screens because I'm sure, as you all can attest to, we're constantly getting asked to share GoFundMe accounts or share other departments' initiatives or participate in something, whether it's staff hours or budget or whatever it is. So really trying to use a priority screen with specific data analysis kind of built in, so that we can say yes to the things that are priorities for us and no to the things politely that don't meet those goals that we're trying to achieve, at least for the year.
For sure. Kind of staying with you, Emily, and we've talked a little bit about this today, around digital. Like what role, obviously with COVID, many folks, I think it was Paula, one of the big statistics coming out of the pandemic was just how quickly technology was accelerated. The adoption of technology and usage was accelerated. But what role is digital engagement playing in 2022? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So definitely, as I said before, personalization and segmentation. One of the things that we have really looked at is our international markets. We're not traveling to our international markets anytime soon. There are 6,000 alumni who live outside of the US, so it's really not a large population for us, but we want to make sure that we're focused on them. So we rolled out a virtual series of events on international engagement and really pushed it out in those regions. For example, we did a session on fintech in the Middle East with panelists who are alumni who live in the Middle East and are working on startups. And then we are going to be having an event this coming week on VC funding venture capital in Latin America. So really looking specifically where the technology makes the most sense. And also we've tried a lot of different platforms or different programs to try to streamline things. One that's been really successful for us is a text messaging platform, particularly with our young alumni. And just making sure that we can really segment our message to the audiences that we want to reach the most, whether it be a communication or an event invitation.
Definitely. Text messaging we're hearing about more and more. So curious to the folks that are in the chat. Anybody else using text messaging? And if so, how's it working with your constituents? Paula, handing the mic over to you, can you talk a little bit about what role digital engagement is playing in this current year?
So I think, again, I've mentioned this, being in Florida, it's a little bit different than other places because people are interested and willing to do the in-person items still. But again, we do have a large section of our alumni not in Florida right now. And so we're just trying to keep listening to hear what the alumni do want to do online. If there is the Zoom burnout or whatever, trying to make sure we space out the Zooms. I've noticed, again, the successful Zoom webinars that we've had have been with our faculty members and not with as much with maybe staff members or updates about the university as much. It depends on the demographic of alumni, but what really draws for our demographic is an online access to the favorite professors, because that is what a lot of the alumni resonate with and miss from undergrad. And then we also have a texting platform, Signalvine, that we started using a year and a half ago, I think. And I've been using that quite a bit more than I had originally expected to be using it, just because it is a very fast way to contact people. And usually people are pretty even keeled about receiving a text versus if they get bombarded by other types of check-ins from the alumni engagement department. And then just making sure that we're continuing to work with marketing in our department. So we started a new highlighting of alumni on our Facebook and Instagrams. And then we have a separate highlighting system that happens on LinkedIn. And so really just making sure that the alumni see that we're still hearing them, we're still hearing their stories, and we're still willing to share those stories on social media too.
Fantastic. Joslyn, can you talk a little bit about what role digital engagement is playing in 2022 for you all?
It's playing a big role. We've started doing many more alumni highlights on our Facebook page, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I think that's one we use, and I can't remember the other one. And the alumni are eating that up. They really respond to those highlights, especially from the younger alum that who are doing wonderful things, but nobody knows it but us. So, so sharing those on our various platforms has been a wonderful way to get new alumni engaged. We haven't started the text messaging, but I think that's something we may look into for them. But Zoom meetings, like I said, the virtual visits with the president. We've tried to do a couple of virtual parties, and they did okay. But you know, I can turn on the radio or play my own music at home. We didn't need to play a DJ to play music for folks to participate in that. So we've learned some lessons, but it's going to be a big part going forward as we try to maintain cost, because it's easy to do virtual events. We just have to figure out which ones are going to make good sense for us.
Definitely.
Going forward, yeah.
For sure. I want to jump into a couple of these questions in the Q&A just while they're kind of topical. The first one, and I'm not going to put any of our panelists on the spot, but first question is, if we have time, can we chat through maybe any DEI initiatives that associations are doing to add to their engagement efforts? Any challenges with adding these efforts? What, if any, increased engagement are you receiving because of these initiatives? Anybody want to jump in on that?
I can share a few things that Bentley's done, but Bentley is a predominantly white institution, and happy to say that as of June, hired our first Black president at Bentley. And so lots going on around diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging initiatives. Of course, like many, the racial justice sort of reckoning in June of 2020 sent our university into really trying to get up to speed and increase their efforts in these areas. Like I said, Bentley's still a very predominantly white institution. So the focus was fast and furious, it felt like, as someone who's staffed there, but they've done a great job of really trying to increase opportunities for alumni to learn more about how they can get involved with the activities on campus. We started, I'm sure we're behind many institutions, but we started a Mosaic Alumni Council and a council of alumni of color to really help inform our efforts and do more for those alums who perhaps didn't feel like they had a place to belong on campus or at our events. So really increasing our engagement efforts there. And really, you know, continuing to think about our representation in both our in-person and our virtual events. Our panel's diverse, not just racially, but gender. You know, Bentley is also heavily male. It's 60-40 men to women. So even in 2022. And so really focused on making sure that all aspects of diversity are shown in our panels. At least that's something that our office has taken on and done some seminars and some incorporating a lot of the work that our faculty are doing into our virtual and in-person programming.
Awesome. Any other thoughts from our panel before I move on to the next question?
Certainly, even though we are an HBCU and there's this preconceived notion that we only serve the African-American community, Albany State University has a very diverse population. As I said, we have people from all over the country. Our international students program is a very big program. We just launched last year DICE, which is our diversity, inclusion, and something else. But we want to make sure that all of our students are recognized. So we make a concerted effort in our marketing and advertising to always show our diversity, even though we are an HBCU. And I don't think that any institution or organization can go without having a diversity, inclusion, and program. You just have to, because the world is small. And we're all part of it, and we need to feel like we're part of it.
Definitely. So one other question here that came in the Q&A before we move over to our other questions for the panelists. This is actually directed right at Emily. Can you just touch quickly on the sunsetting of the chapter model and the next steps for the Bentley team and how you're going to handle that?
Sure. So what we did was we really had to do targeted outreach, and I apologize, the sun is kind of like in that spot, so I look like I'm in the dark, so I apologize. But so we really had to manage our volunteers and reach out to them individually and talk to them about this decision. As I mentioned at the top of the webinar, our alumni are primarily in business and finance, so talking to them candidly a little bit about the ROI of the program and why we're shifting to this model and making it make sense to them really helped us. We have really good relationships with our volunteers, and we had revamped our volunteer program over the past 2 years prior to making this decision to come up with a lot of different roles. When I first came to Bentley in 2018, really the only ways you could volunteer were through reunion and through these regional chapters, and we wanted to be able to offer more. So we have a career connector role that has been both virtual and in person. We have a social media ambassador role, like we have an admissions ambassador program that didn't exist previously. So encouraging alumni to really look at those roles and decide what made the most sense for them, if they wanted to stay in a regional capacity or if they wanted to take on a new and different volunteer role. So that helped a lot. And then now we've just launched this sort of event in a box model. Somebody was asking about the cost of mailing. The first two, we rolled out a request form to our regional volunteers, and the first two, one was to Greece. We have a group of about 40 alumni in Greece, and they're very active. They do about 2 events a year. And so we did send them a box, and it was, I think I want to say $70 through the USPS, which is expensive, but we do put a limit on it. They can only request a box twice a year. And we will see quite a few of these regions not hosting events because now the onus is on them to really do all of the legwork. Whereas before, there was a lot of staff resources involved, building a registration page for every event, a hike in North Carolina, all of that. So, really trying to focus on those meaningful engagement points. And the second was New York City. And we decided, since we have so many alumni in New York City, we'll actually do more for that event to support it. We'll probably send a staff person to attend as well. So just kind of having it be more of a focus on what makes the most sense for us and our priorities, as opposed to the volunteers telling us what to do, which is kind of how it felt before.
For sure.
Hopefully that answers the question, but I'm happy to connect. Like I said, I've just left Bentley and I'm starting a new role on Monday. But if you reach out on LinkedIn, I'm happy to talk more about the transition.
Awesome. So Paula, I'm going to hand the mic over to you. Let's shift gears for a sec. What role is cross-departmental collaboration going to play in this kind of current year and the year ahead? How can you work closely with your colleagues kind of in advancement, marketing, career services, et cetera? And maybe you are all of those, who knows? But, how do you work, with across the departments to be as effective as possible? Paula, you want to start? Oh, okay.
Sorry, my mouse was not working. So I am not all of them. Thankfully, I have a lot of support in those different departments. Our marketing department actually just got a new VP, and we recently we were brainstorming about all sorts of different alumni processes that we can move forward with. But definitely working with marketing just to make sure our alumni are, again, like I said, highlighted as much as we can, and all of the accomplishments that our alumni have done. So over social media, over our newsletters, in our magazine that goes out to donors, alumni, and parents. And then I would love to have our own alumni magazine. We don't have the bandwidth for that right now, but eventually we'd like to get up to that. And so just kind of working with marketing to try to see where we can move forward now that we have kind of the consistency in the programming. And then with career services is always sending me job updates that get sent to them, and I share them with our alumni, either people that I think would specifically be interested in them, or just on our Facebook alumni group, making sure that overlap happens with those postings. And then with admissions, also for our regional alumni associations, I'd like to start connecting alumni with prospective students, because we don't have that program in place. But with regional alumni associations that we're just getting off the ground, I'd like to incorporate that as one of their yearly events that happens to be connecting the students and families that are looking into the university.
Definitely. Joslyn, on your side, how are you kind of working cross-departmentally, with marketing, advancement, career services?
Well, my VP is over marketing, advancement, and alumni relations. So we work very closely as a team. They comment often that they do more work for me than they do for anybody else, and I'm glad to hear that, which means that we're reaching out to our alumni. Career services, I'm actually working with them right now on an alumni networking event for our seniors, specifically our seniors, hoping to connect them with possible work opportunities. Work with enrollment management through the Alumni Association to provide recruiters, to help identify recruiters for training and help them set up career fairs and college fairs. And other departments, when they need an alumni to speak, the first person they call is me to see, do we have somebody we can reach out to in this particular major. We just did an event with the Meet the Lawyers for our criminal justice program, and we were able to identify 10 attorneys and judges for the students to visit them. So it's not just the 3 that are listed that you talked about, it's across the campus.
Definitely. Emily, kind of handing the mic over to you. How are you approaching alumni engagement when it comes to recent grads, particularly those that have graduated like into the pandemic or over the course of the pandemic? How has your strategy changed, kind of given the circumstances and the unusual challenges?
Great question. That cohort is our most important, well, I won't say most important right now, but a priority for our office, because that's where we've lost a lot of alumni in those first 5 to 10 years out. So a couple years ago, we really increased our efforts towards that group. And I think we've been very successful in engaging them, especially just post-pandemic. So we had our first in-person homecoming and this past fall, and we offer the classes of 2020 and 2021 free admittance. We know they already come back anyway, but this enabled us to really tally them and know that they were there because they did register since it was free. So playing around with some pricing for our more recent alumni to make it more worthwhile for them and show them that we know they're just starting out in their careers and making it more affordable. That's worked well. The text messaging, which we've mentioned, we promoted a young alumni ski trip via text message, and we saw a real increase in our registrations. And then we created a board, we call it Falcons of the Last Decade. I'm sure many people have like a gold or a bold or a fold like we do. But we have a little board that comes together to really help us think about what events would be of interest, both virtual and in person, what types of initiatives would work well, communications, and it's working really well. We've had great engagement. So those are probably the top 3 things that we've done.
Definitely. Paula, for you, how are you kind of approaching these recent grads and those that have come out of the pandemic?
So we actually had, so our students, like most students, went home in March of 2020. And so our 2020 grads didn't get a graduation, but our students were able to come back in the fall. So in December of 2020, we had an outdoors graduation for them. And the night before, Advancement Alumni Relations hosted a reception that was not a normal event that we usually do, but it was a free of charge reception for all the 2020 grads, just because they also got didn't get their senior week that they usually get with all of the fun, fancy events. And so we wanted to do something kind to recognize them and kind of some of the senior events that they didn't get to have. So we gave that to them, and that was a very successful event. We don't have that to do that every year in the budget right now. If we could do some sort of party or reception like that in the future, I would love that though, because I think there's something special about connecting right before you graduate with alumni relations. So that was really cool on my end to be able to like meet a lot more of the students that I hadn't met before and just connect. Like it was the night before graduation. So that was great. I can't remember if I've done this once or twice now, but included a letter to them, to the recent grads, and all the ways they can get involved right now to the alumni community. And the registrar has taken that letter and included that with the graduation packet, with the diploma and all that. And it seems kind of simple, but I've tried to hit home now for a couple years how important contact information is to the young alumni, just because they move so often. And there's my light again. It's the entertainment of the day. But yeah, just really hitting home about how much we need the contact information. I like to say that our alumni engagement is only as good as the contact information that we have. So making sure they understand why I annoy them all for contact information so often. So including that in little snippets that we've had. I think I included that last year in some of the senior class gift content. And so just making sure they understand before they leave the opportunities that they have, and also what we need for them to keep them connected. So
For sure. And Joslyn, we're coming up on about 3 minutes left, but Joslyn, kind of how are you approaching engagement with your pandemic grads?
Well, we're relying on the chapters to help us with that. Once they've left, they go into a community and they get their first year of membership in the National Alumni Association reduced. So being able to send out an email to the recent graduates from that area to attend a welcome home party that the alumni chapter will host has worked very well for us. At least in terms of getting the information to the Alumni Association so that they can interact with them at that level, because they would interact with them much more closely than we would on a daily basis. That's one thing that we do. We used to host a breakfast the morning before graduation. It was just before the graduation rehearsal. We found that they had partied the night before, and so they weren't willing to get up for an 8 o'clock breakfast. They would skip it, so we missed the opportunity to connect with them on a one-on-one basis. So now we do it after commencement. We set up a tent in the parking lot of the Civic Center where we hold our commencement service, and we get to meet both parents and graduates during that event. And we've also introduced a parenting newsletter that goes out once a month. And the hope is that those parents who get that will encourage their students to stay, their students to stay engaged with the university after they're graduating. And the other thing we're doing is making sure that students are engaged while they're here. What we found is that engaged students make great alumni. If they're engaged while they're in activities, while they're on campus, they don't feel the same kind of connection to the university once they graduate. So that's a big thrust for me, is starting the relationship when they're freshmen.
Got it. Amazing. Okay, we have 45 seconds left. So in 10 words or less, Joslyn, you start us off. What is one big takeaway you'd want each person watching to bring back to their organization? 10 words or less. 15 words.
Flexible, be flexible, be flexible. That's 9.
Love it. Yeah, that was really good. Paula.
Reach alumni where they're at.
Oh, that was really good. Emily.
Stole it from Case.
those were going to be some of mine. Okay. Be creative and try testing pilots here and there when you have a good idea. If you can get some buy-in, hopefully. But this was great. Thank you.
Experimentation, love it. Thank you, panelists, Emily, Paula, Joslyn. So nice to have you on here. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. Would love to know what you thought about this. You're welcome to reach out with other topics. My email is dan@cuseum.com. You can find me and I'll throw it in the chat here too. Also, you're welcome to connect on LinkedIn. I know Emily shared her link also. So thanks for joining us on Alumni Hour. If we can help with anything, let us know. And everyone have a wonderful day, nice weekend, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It was great being with you.